Hi, Divine Loves. Welcome to this week's Energy Update. We come together each week to know the truth, live on spiritual principle, and align with universal law. And we know that when somebody awakens, they have a gift and message to bring to the world. And together, we are awakening the world. So this week, we're going to break on down the one thing that you must do to break free from old patterns. It is in the consciousness right now, the old patterns coming in, and is looking like people being sad, lonely, stuck, and feeling like deep, heavy, dark energy. So we're going to kind of break on down what's going on from an astrological perspective and from a collective perspective and from your unique path of awakening. We also have a call in, a woman from, I believe, Texas, who is really embracing a sadness and she doesn't know where it's coming from. And we're going to break it on down as far as also what's happening in the collective. And then this week's universal law, which is the universal law of compensation. So grab a tea or coffee and maybe grab your journal. If you've already downloaded Universal Law calendar, you can look at that as well. And here we go. Welcome to the Dr. Erin Show. May you live your truth. Hello and welcome to the Dr. Erin Show. I'm Dr. Erin, Dr. Divinity and founder of Spiritual Psychology School and Society Community. And we come together really on this podcast every week to get our mind right. We come together to really know what's happening energetically on a cosmic and astrological level, but also what's happening in the collective so that we can get our mind right. We come together also to have a call in, some questions asked so that we can begin to train our mind to think from truth, to think from universal law, and to not think of it from our judging standpoint or division perspective, but rather from a heart space of spiritual truth. And then we also come together each week to break on down a lesson of universal law. So there's only one universal law. It's the law of oneness or the law of cause and effect. It's really how spirit, the true self, consciousness is creating through the subconscious mind into the 3D form. And so really looking at how do we align with universal law to experience more of our divinity, more of our power, and really be able to break through all of our limitations, our limited beliefs, our limited stories, all that stuff, so we can align to the highest, most empowered expression of our beloved divine within. So this week, I want to get a little bit personal. I share a lot of case stories, a lot of student, things going on, all the distinctions, but I personally want to get more vulnerable. So one of the I don't even think I would call it a struggle. It's really a chapter of this unfoldment of my life. And as I get into my 50s and I actually have become a grandmother, it's actually another, what I call shedding of the skin, like a snake. Here I was the other day and I was like, well, I had all these social engagements that I could go to. And then the next day, I had no engagements. And I'm like, I didn't feel like going. And I also didn't feel like being alone. It was like I was kind of this interim. And as we say, 1 foot in and 1 foot out is really the source of suffering. So I began to take a look at, over the course of my life, it's been a theme of my life. You really want to take a look at the theme. Okay. So some of the theme is like, no one understands me or I'm not enough. My theme over my life is that I'm alone. It's one of my trauma commands in this lifetime. And what I recognize is that, what used to be exciting to me is no longer exciting to me. So here I was, invited to a couple social things and I just didn't feel like going. It wasn't calling my heart. And yet I was then spending time alone and I was like, oh, I'm lonely. I was like, wait a second, something is like off here, right? So of course, what did I do? I went into prayer and meditation. And of course it's like, oh, no, I don't necessarily feel like going to those same social events because they're not calling to me anymore. But being alone is not necessarily calling to me either. And we have to understand that the universe is always working for us, right? So it's kind of like, I like to use a metaphor of like a snake shedding its skin. And I remember I had a dear friend and he had a snake, he had a white snake, and it was the coolest snake, but every I don't know how often, maybe every few months or once a year, I'm not sure, it would shed its skin. And it would, right before it was going to shed its skin, the snake would kind of like not move. And you could tell it was almost like a little annoyed. And my friend would say, yeah, he's just about to shed his skin. I can tell because he always gets like that. Right. And the thing is, it's like we're like the snake. And by the way, we are in a snake year from the Chinese horoscope for this year, and we're in a 9 year for the numerology. I can say it. So we're really completing cycles, right? So this snake, right, begins to shed its skin. It gets really uncomfortable. Things get really tight. It gets kind of like, oh, get me out of here, right? And then it finally breaks free, like it has a little tear in the skin, and then it slithers forward and it comes out of its skin. And then it's like liberated. Okay. So the theme really for this week is embrace change. We are spiritual beings and there's only change in the universe. So if we're here to evolve, right? And oftentimes I want to place myself back into like when I was 30 and I was, having all these social events, even though I was completely not happy, by the way. I was doing my spiritual work, but still suffering a lot and codependency and stuff, right? So we want to go back, but we can't go back. We are here to evolve as spirits. And just like the snake, we have to shed our skin. And this brings me to the Hindu philosophy of the different chapters. And I actually wanted to pull this up because I wanted to read it correctly for you guys, because it's really fascinating. In the West, we never talk about the evolution, right? We talk about being young and, having all that success. We talk about having family. We talk about all that. And then we never talk about what happens after the family, after creating that business, after whatever. And I'm saying this doesn't matter where you are, if you're 18 years old or if you're 50, we're always going through these different changes and we have to embrace the change. So I just want to like read this for a minute because I think it's really important to look at this. Okay. So in the East, they have four different kind of chapters of life of our evolution. The first chapter is basically what they consider the student age. It's focusing on education, self-discipline, celibacy even, and spiritual study. Not so much in the West. We don't necessarily practice celibacy unless you are very spiritual, right? And it's time for learning and character building. Like this is ideal, these chapters, okay? And we know it's not going to be the same for everyone, but this is kind of a generality, okay? The second is what's considered kind of the household or business stage. It's where you're contributing to the society, marriage or family, or building that company, hopefully for the highest good for all. And you're fulfilling worldly duties, if you will, okay? And then there's the next chapter, which is kind of what they call the hermit or retirement stage. And it's where like, things just, we call it midlife crisis in the West, right? It's like where things don't necessarily like fulfill us as much anymore. The same things we don't care about. We kind of feel like simplicity makes us more fulfilled than all the chaos, right? It gets to this place, it's a natural kind of hermit phase. And even though I've been spiritual for a long time, doing deep spiritual practice, it's still like at this age in my life, I'm feeling like, wow, I really am not feeling this. I don't enjoy going out to social events, like unless I'm teaching, unless it's like a very intentional, spiritual thing. I don't enjoy it. Like literally, I'd rather be one-on-one with a friend or alone with Mother Earth and God. Okay. So this is the hermit and retirement stage. And then there's another stage. And the stage is what's called renunciation stage. It's really where in the East, there's complete renunciation. Like they get rid of actual homes and things like that. Not everybody, but a lot. And they do their spiritual work. In the West, we do it much differently. We just do spiritual work whenever it happens. We have a spiritual awakening and everyone thinks we're, whatever. And it can be very disruptive. So in the East, there's more systems of what is kind of, you have a duty to take care of the family. You have a duty to do all this business stuff instead of running off to Burning Man and deciding to, let go of everything, right? So the point is this, is that the collective is evolving. What is worked for you 5-10 years ago is not working anymore. And you can't go back. Okay. We're not going to go back to the old world. We're not going to go back to the way it was. It's forward. And how we evolve goes forward as well. Okay. So no matter what is going on, if you're feeling lonely, if you are feeling sad, no matter what's going on, if you're discontent, just know it's not a breakdown. It's a soul realignment. It's an evolution for really the next level of where you're going to. Okay. This is a spiritual evolution. It is a soul expansion, and it is the shedding of the illusion of anything that's not truth. Okay. And that brings me to the astrological stuff going on this week. Okay. This is a week where we have the new moon in Gemini, okay, on Monday. And Gemini, we know, is about duality, like double personality, right? It's communication also, it's all these things. But the new moon in Gemini is really about new beginnings, okay? And it's a portal. It's a portal who you were and who you're becoming. And that's the duality. Who you were is not going to work anymore. You keep clinging to what was, right? But what you're becoming is the unknown. And it's territory that can be scary, but it's territory that the only way the snake sheds its skin, it's got to completely let go of its old skin. It can't take its old skin with it, right? Okay. So the Gemini is a sign of the twins. And so you're not going to your old life is done. You've got to shed it. Okay. The tug of war is going to really hurt you if you keep clinging onto it. You've got to embrace the dark, and you've got to do this one thing, which is you've got to embrace it. You've got to know that if you're lonely or sad, sometimes you've got to go fully feel that to be able to build the new skin, to be able to build that new identity, the new one's evolved into it. Okay. So from this perspective, let's go in now, to this week's call-in. And the reason why I picked this call-in is because it really aligns to the theme of what's going on, okay? And this call-in is Maria from Austin, Texas, another Austin, Texas person. We have a lot of people there, I guess, listening in. And she's a spiritual seeker and feels a sense of sadness. So she writes and said this: lately, I've been feeling a strange sense of sadness, okay? I keep thinking about how things used to be, my routines, my habits, my relationships, and even the version of myself 5 or 10 years ago. Okay. I just want things to feel normal again. Okay. Why am I feeling so lost? Okay. First of all, you can never be the version of yourself 5 or 10 years ago. It's impossible. Every minute of every day is change. The one thing of life is change. Okay. So the version of yourself 5 or 10 years ago is not going to work. Okay. So sweet soul. Okay. This ache is not weakness. It is a spiritual evolution. So when you're lost and you're sad, sometimes we don't want to have any of those negative feelings, but remember that all transformation is taking the dark, the sadness, the loneliness, that lostness, and taking to neutrality and then going to the light. Okay. We can't go from the dark to the light. That's spiritual bypassing. Okay. That's the spiritual movement that we don't like. The spiritual movement of positivity is actually going to neutrality first, being with it without resistance, without judging it, without trying to fix it, change it, or anything, just fully feeling the emotions and the feeling. And when it really as is it really neutralizes, you fully accept it, then we can begin to know there's a wisdom that's going to come off that, right? In E4 in the school, we do that deep, deep work of transforming. You're the guru, okay? The guru is taking the light, the dark, to the neutral, to the positive over and over again, okay? So Maria, okay, you have outgrown your old life. You are like a snake shedding its skin, okay? It's uncomfortable. Okay. It's the unknown. But when you finally shed the skin, you will be liberated. And you have to know sometimes it takes a few months. Sometimes it can take a year. Sometimes you go through, if there's resistance, it may be years. Okay. It is in the resistance. So the one thing you must do to break free of your old patterns is having no resistance, embracing the dark, embracing the negative feelings around. Okay. You cannot bring the old version of yourself to the next dimension of your life. It's impossible. Okay. Because all of life is just one thing. It is the outpicturing of an identity. And if you have a new identity, your entire universe is going to change. That's the evolution. Okay. Now it can be inverted as well. You can start getting older or going through these things and thinking, I'm not enough. I'm not as good as I used to be, blah, blah, blah. And the universe just says, and so it is. You may actually devolve instead of evolve. Okay. So you've got to know that life is working for you. You've got to be able to transform all perceptions, everything that's dark within you. Okay. So letting go of your old identity and grieving Sometimes you've got to grieve the old you. Sometimes you've got to release. Sometimes you've got to do deep, deep trauma work and deep, deep regression work to birth the I am. Okay. So you can grab the newsletter as well. There's lots of journaling kind of prompts on it as well. You can go right below here in there and get the weekly newsletter on my website, drerin.tv. And then last segment of this podcast this week is the universal law of the week, which is a law of compensation. And I love this law so much because it really is the boomerang of what we give to life has to come back exponentially. Okay. So it's the compensation. You are always compensated. Okay. No matter whatever you could give lots of value, service, help solve problems, and it's going to return multiplied back, not necessarily from the same person. You can give love exponentially. The problem for most people is they give love hoping it's going to come back in exactly the way they want it. If you give love exponentially, it returns multiplied abundantly, right? If you give service and all that, this is a big thing in the school of helping, the coaches really build their business of coaching, and they want to get clients or get money. It doesn't work that way. It is all about giving exponentially and solving problems and solving pain points and transforming lives and having it reflect back through prosperity and value and service as well. Okay. So this law of compensation really is really understanding that life is a boomerang and that you are here to actually look at how you are giving. Most people are trying to get from life, and it doesn't work that way. We only get from source within. The only place that we ever get anything from is from source within. And then we give that, and then it reflects back multiplied. That's a law of compensation. So I know this right now as we come together in spiritual mind treatment, taking the hands together, connecting the right and left hemisphere of the mind, connecting the heart with the head. I just recognize right here, right now, that all of life is this beautiful dynamic. And I recognize the non-resistance is the breaking free, the as-ising, the accepting, knowing that as we really, really see that life is working for us and not against us, we really, really see how it is here for our evolution. We really, really understand and comprehend and become aware of our ability to transcend any and all emotions, any and all circumstances, any and all lack can be transformed into abundance with the speed of consciousness. And so I'm knowing the transformation for the call-in. I'm knowing the transformation for anyone here watching this video or listening to this podcast. I'm holding it in my heart for the entire globe. No matter if you're transforming from a teenage into your 20s, or you're transforming after your children have left your house, no matter where you are, that we are constantly shedding our skin. We're constantly outgrowing our skin, and we are becoming completely new expressions of the divine, complete new identities. And so I'm knowing a great, powerful week as every day this week, we embody the universal law of compensation. We give. What if we gave exponential love everywhere we went? What if we gave blessings within our breath to every single person we came in contact? What if we gave a gift everywhere we went? What if we gave value every time and asked and prayed just to be able to serve the next person? Imagine what our lives would be like. The compensation would be a miracle. I simply know this in the name of truth, as together we say, and so it is, and so it is. Okay, you guys, you are welcome to grab the 52 Universal Law lesson calendar below and the energy update. We put this out once a week for the newsletter, for the podcast, and for the Universal Law calendar. And then also, I'm so excited. This is the first time we've been saying this. We are going to officially be launching out Soul Society, the spiritual growth community. And it is going to be very, very low ticket. It is going to be a monthly workshop, and it's going to be 30-day challenges. And you will also be able to come on the live podcast. We'll be holding them once a month to do some hot seats and answer questions and really connect as a community as well. So I'm so incredibly excited. This has been a dream for many years. We have Soul Society already as our community in spiritual psychology school and all the certification programs, and helping all the coaches get trained in the spiritual psychology coaching framework and E4 framework. But Soul Society itself, we've never launched it out as a membership like this. We've never launched it out to just come together with the seekers and the healers and the spiritual entrepreneurs and leaders, just coming together to support and really get our mind right all the time together. So I'm super excited for that. You can check all the links below. I will see you next week. May you live your truth.